Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Christmas. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Just have a happy day. Hopefully you have the day off, and hopefully it's just a merry, bright day and all that for you. But it won't be if you watch this piece of crap. Yep, I recently watched this thing on YouTube by sheer coincidence. I'm not gonna, say where on YouTube, but I've seen it on YouTube because I'll get into it. But yeah, I was trying to watch every single Christmas Carol adaptation and post a video and all that, but that turns out it's easier said than done, especially when I put it on a whole lot of restraints. So maybe I'll just release a few Christmas vids in between Christmas and New Year's, because ran out of time. I don't know. Well, that remains to be seen. But anyway, I just had to talk about this FX A Christmas Carol because it is just baffling the amount of decisions that is made in regards to this thing. It's not a movie. It's not a television show. Or a television movie. It's actually a miniseries consisting of 3-hour-long episodes, I guess. And it was actually a co-production between FX, which is basically nowadays Disney's version of HBO. I mean, they got a lot of quality content on FX, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's a lot of great shows on there. Quietly collecting dust, honestly, because they deserve a lot of attention. Anyway, though, co-production between FX and the BBC, which, surprising enough, the BBC also made a lot of the more famous and better Christmas carols. Like, for instance, the Patrick Stewart version, they actually co-made with that. And this entire miniseries was directed by Nick Murphy, who directed a lot of pretty decent things like The Awakening and Blood, which I heard a lot of people like that. I haven't seen those myself. But also written by Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight is a more popular BBC person who wrote Taboo. And for all those who have seen Taboo, it's basically he also directed, he's also creator of Peaky Blinders, which, yeah, it makes sense why this Christmas Carol looks and feels the way it does, let's put it that way. Because Taboo is basically just style over substance. It's basically just seeing 1840s England, and that's basically it. It's got really little to no story, but just the aesthetic and all that. And yeah, they really wanted to go real for this Christmas Carol. And Peaky Blinders is actually a really decent, really good show. It also shows a lot of the darkness and griminess of 1840s London and all that. Or 1840s, whatever, 1800s, America and, England and all that type of stuff. Anyway, though. But yeah, after seeing he was, writing this thing, it makes a lot of sense as to why they went the way they went. Now, this miniseries was being touted as being the most realistic Christmas Carol of all time. It's gonna show not the glossed over, the glitz and glamour of the 1840s, but instead it's gonna show the harshness and the crumminess of the 1840s England and all that. I mean, the thing basically starts out with a kid pissing on Marley's grave, and then Marley coming up and saying, "Oh, it clearly states you can't piss on my grave," basically. And that is the most bizarre, weird joke, because There is no humor in this entire show. I'm already reviewing this, but it's just bizarre decisions like that. It just brings it all down. And yeah, when this thing came out, it had very mixed results, very mixed ratings and all that, which I can detest. I can agree with. In fact, it's got a 52% Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's really generous. I mean, one of the main issues was that Stephen Knight wanted to kind of deconstruct Dickens' character. He said in an interview once that he wanted to deconstruct Scrooge's character and all that and make it more realistic and all that. But I don't think he even read the novella, because this whole book is deconstructing Scrooge's character and how he became who he is. What are you talking about? But yeah, it got mixed results to the point where FX, I guess, pulled it, because even though, Disney Plus and Hulu are merging, I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere. Online, it says that you can watch it on Prime for free, but I looked on my Prime and it's not there. You gotta purchase it. I mean, the only way you can watch it now is like purchasing it through Prime. Can't even buy it on iTunes. That is just absolutely bizarre. And it kind of shows how far they went in a few places. I think they went a little too far in a few places. But before we really dive into this piece of crap, let's dive into the poster. Something that I don't really do a whole lot, but we're going to now. Now, this one shows the darkness of this adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Most of the time you see Scrooge propping up Tiny Tim and all that, or, just Scrooge and all that, just swinging a stick like Patrick Stewart's version and all that. But it's clearly, A Christmas Carol, But this one, this one's dark. This one's, a very, very different one indeed. But here's the thing, okay? This poster shows Scrooge having his hat, his famous top hat. You see the Ghost of Christmas Future. What am I saying? The Ghost of Christmas Future, like almost devouring him and all that. Yeah, the Ghost of Christmas Future. Why do I keep on saying past? Well, okay, we'll get into it. But the Ghost of Christmas Future does not look like that. He does not have a hood. You can clearly see his face, and it is stupid, let me tell you. And Scrooge never wears a hat in this entire show. He does not wear a top hat. I don't know where they got that from, but he never, ever wears a hat. Even when he's, a younger person, you never see him wear a hat. In fact, they make a joke in this series about him and his hair and all that, which, oh boy, okay, let's get into this piece of crap. Now, to be fair, before we dive into, the worst that this thing is, I got to admit, I need to divulge into the good, because there is, surprising enough, there is some good in this thing. Number one, and again, a lot of asterisks here, and we'll get into it, but I liked, for some reason, I don't know why, but I liked the idea, at least, of Mary Cratchit summoning the ghosts, to attack Scrooge, basically. Honestly, if it was included in, other Christmas carols, it would probably be a little, like, hammering a doornail into, just a little too much, I guess. A little too much doesn't really necessarily be needed, but I think it's a pretty interesting idea, and it could have worked. It didn't work in this, but I liked the idea. I liked where it was going. Let's put it that way. Number 2, I liked how, Marley's fate was kind of tied with Scrooge's fate. I don't know. I think I like that, what they did with that a little bit too much, probably. I mean, the whole thing is like a warning to Scrooge, Marley is the one that, has to wear these chains and all that, and kind of wear these for infinity and beyond, but I like that there is some redemption for Marley, and there's a reason why Marley's, trying to help out Scrooge and all that. And technically, yeah, you could make the argument that, yeah, he's trying to get Scrooge to, change so he doesn't have to do this too. But I like that there's some redemption for Marley too, I always kind of wished that there was some kind of redemption for Marley. And come to find out there is. He can actually sleep peacefully after the end of this series, because his fate is tied with Scrooge and all that. So yeah, there you go. Number 3, this Scrooge. One of their fantastic ideas is that he's incredibly OCD, and he counts everything, and he's incredibly detached from humanity, basically, and treats them all like animals. I think that's a pretty interesting idea, and overall, I think it's done pretty well. I think they dive a little too hard in a few places, like, doing some science experiments and all that type of stuff. It's a little overkill, okay? But, to make him OCD and make him incredibly, scientifically minded, I think that's actually a pretty interesting idea. And very, he's very clean and all that. He's very meticulous. I think that's a very interesting idea. Number 4, Andy Serkis's performance, I thought was actually pretty decent. He's rarely in this show, but when he is, he's hamming it up, kind folks. He's just, he's being the crazy goofball we all know and love Andy to be. And yes, he was at Dragon Con. I did not see him. I wish I did, because this guy can do no wrong in acting wise. But yeah, also the whole production design, like an honorable mention, production design, pretty decently well done as well, I gotta say. I mean, I'm all for, productions being, really nicely well done and all that, so there you go. But yeah, that's all I really gotta say about this thing. Yeah, a lot of these are kind of little bitty bits in this entire mini-series. It's not really like a huge overarching thing, except for Andy Serkis's performance, but he's barely in this, so I call that maybe a nitpick as well. This entire series just rots in its own splendor, probably. It's very up its own ass, let me put it that way. I mean, I talked about the opening scene. I mean, if it was dark, fine, but then they had to put in that joke. It's so weird. The rest of the series is absolutely not like this. There are no real jokes in this. There's no real levity to it at all. But it just opened on that one joke, and I was like, what the heck? What? But anyway, let's just divulge into the bigger aspects of this entire series. And the biggest one, the big glaring one, is this. Number 1, the title is misleading because it's got nothing to do with Christmas. Yes, Christmas is mentioned, and yes, it takes place during Christmas, but Scrooge never learns to celebrate Christmas. He just learns to be like a better person. But the main point of the entire book, and the main point of every single adaptation, previous to this, was that Scrooge needs to be a better person, but also needs to keep, the holiday merry. Yeah, open up, but also, celebrate Christmas, because Christmas you know, it should open you up more than, you know, previously otherwise, you know, it's, gosh. And there's rarely anything to do with Christmas. He mentions Christmas a little bit, but it takes a back seat to being a better person and being a better boss, which I understand, yes. But, you know, celebrating Christmas, that's the whole point of the story? Why aren't you celebrating Christmas? I mean, he tells people Merry Christmas in the, you know, while he's walking at the end, but it doesn't really seem like he learned anything about Christmas. So there's that. Great. A Christmas Carol that has nothing to do with Christmas. That's spectacular. Thank you. Thank you, miniseries. You've done wonders for that. Number 2, it enforces today's politics into this thing. Okay, first of all, let me just say this. I acknowledge the fact that the book and a lot of the, you know, adaptations tend to be very political, especially for, you know, when this book came out, because, you know, a lot of people in England, in 1840s England, acted a lot like Scrooge. I get it. Charles Dickens made these books for, you know, political commentary. I get it. And it doesn't really take a huge leap of, you know, thought to kind of interwove modern day politics into this story as well. But here's the thing. A Christmas Carol is so beloved and so interwoven in modern day Christmas because it seems timeless. It's written just vague enough that you can insert, you know, your crappy boss or, you know, whoever, I don't know, Warren Beatty or something like that. You can interwove them, Jeff Bezos. He can be Scrooge and still get a heartwarming message about Christmas. You know, it's just the way Charles Dickens wrote makes it timeless. Yeah, he put a lot of the times in this book, but really you can read this and basically insert a lot of people into it and just make it, you know, it makes it timeless. Here, it's one specific time, and I can't stress this enough. If you watch this thing at any other point in time, I'm fairly certain that it's not going to be that timeless. Scrooge isn't like, you know, the miserable miser that we all know and love. He's kind of the Jeff Bezos of London, I guess, you know. He's he's upright, he's a strict businessman and all that, and I get it. Technically, Scrooge is the Jeff Bezos in A Christmas Carol, but he's more comedic. He's more comical. He's more, you know, exaggerated to the point where, you know, you can insert anyone into it. This adaptation, you can't think of anyone else other than, like, you know, the top businessmen of the 21st century, and it shows. It shows a lot of the coal miners and all that. They get a huge tangent on that, which, yes, the coal miners, you know, they should have, you know, they should have a big focus on that. Technically, probably be better if they did have a bigger focus on that, but, you know, it takes the front seat compared to Christmas taking a back seat, which is the whole point, again, of the story. Number 3, Guy Pearce playing Scrooge. Now, listen, I'm not gonna really hurt or, you know, nitpick Guy Pearce's performance because he's trying, okay? He's trying his best here. He's trying to play Scrooge the way people know Scrooge to be, but he's also trying to be this new Scrooge that the director and writer want him to be. It's a very difficult balancing and all that. He's trying. It's not working, though. He's upright. He's way too good looking to be Scrooge. In fact, he's too good looking and way too, eye-appealing to be anybody within 1840s London, honestly. No one looked like this in 1840s London, okay? They always had hats. They always had beards. No one looked like this. But, I mean, honestly, they did a lot better in Taboo, honestly. But for some reason, they had to have Scrooge look like Guy Pearce and have his, stroking hair and all that in this adaptation for some reason. I don't understand why. I mean, sometimes he gets a little bit of the old pimples and all that, but very rarely does he have anything. I mean, he looks like the healthiest person ever in 1840s London. It's so, it's very, very weird. I don't even know anymore. Number 4, the ghosts are stupid. Now, I don't know why they did this, but the ghosts are just jumbled up and not really keeping to the theme, except at the very end, which we'll get to. But yeah, I don't know what Andy Serkis was doing, or what Andy Serkis' character was supposed to be, but he was the first ghost to appear, and he looks more like the happy, joyful, Ghost of Christmas Present, but he's the Ghost of Christmas Past for some reason, and he keeps on changing into like Alibaba or whoever, a coal miner, all that type of stuff. It's very weird. I don't know why they decided to do this. Probably because they can't have Andy Serkis, in the scene, I guess. They couldn't afford him because it's BBC money, of course, but still, it's just very bizarrely weird why they had this huge hulking, creature as the first ghost. That's not right. And then they have the Ghost of Christmas Present being Scrooge's sister. Literally Scrooge's sister. Why? What is the purpose of that? Why did you bring her in here? I get Marley, because Marley's in between universes and all that, between life and death, but not Scrooge's sister, because she was good. Why is she here? It's so stupid. But they got as close to Christmas Future as they could, I guess. I mean, they sewed up his lips for some reason. I don't know why. They could have him dressed up as like the Undertaker, which, I mean, Peg Leg Pete in A Mickey's Christmas Carol is better than this piece of crap. Look at this. This is terrible. If you look at a picture of him, just look at him. He's comedically awful. Also, and the most bizarre thing, because you don't need to do this, but they decided to do this. Apparently, they wanted to add rules to the ghosts and all that for dramatic effects, of course, but no, just no. So remember the whole thing about, Marley's jaw being, off his face and all that in the beginning of the story? Yeah, the reason why it's like that is because in this adaptation, Scrooge knocked it off the little, like, knocker thing, and he's got to reattach it. After that, it's fixed. That's it. It's fixed. There you go. Also, the most baffling decision is that apparently people who are very emotional can start to see the spirits. What? No, what the hell? No. They add unnecessary rules to the spirits, which, I mean, if you looked at the story, you would clearly see that they didn't need a whole lot of rules. They just did their thing. That's all. You don't need rules. These are unnecessary and stupid. I mean, maybe you can use those effects that you did with half showing Scrooge and all that in that one ghost thing. Maybe you can use that to give Andy Serkis some more money so he can actually, stay in, character that one time. Which, by the way, also, there's this one point where Andy Serkis is there, and it's not just some NPC or something, like Alibaba or whoever, which, why? Why is he here now? You know, it's just, oh my gosh, it's just baffling. It's baffling. And again, I would like it if they explained why they decided to do this, but it's never explained why. You can explain the rules, you can explain, you know, why these changes kind of happen, you know, that type of thing, but whatever. And if you think I'm just a Christmas Carol, you know, fanatic here and you gotta see every single thing, listen, okay, 1951 version, I didn't think I would really enjoy, but I actually really did enjoy. We got to see, you know, Scrooge and Marley kind of meet and all that, which, yeah, we didn't really necessarily need, but it was added, and it was actually pretty interesting how they grew up together and how Scrooge kind of became more, you know, a miser and all that type of thing through Marley, which is actually pretty interesting. Then we get the social commentary here where Scrooge apparently, another point, Scrooge, you know, buys a looming mill and closes it down 4 days later. Gee, I wonder what that's supposed to be like. And it's just, it doesn't add anything. It's just, yeah, we get it. He's a shrewd businessman, but it doesn't make a lot of sense as to why he did this. They don't really explain why they did this because, you know, gain more profit, but why would you buy something and then close it down 4 days later? It's kind of, they don't really explain why that he did that. Maybe it was competition, but competition for what? He works in coal. What's the deal with that? You know? Anyway, we come to the parts where I physically have a hard time talking about this, but we're gonna get through this. Number 5, whatever it is, I don't even know the number. Where they went too far in a few places. Okay, so this is the more edgy crap that didn't necessarily need to be in this because it works fine without this garbage in here. But because it's 2019 and because we need to be edgy and horrific and whatever, we gotta show these things in A Christmas Carol, one of the most wholesome books ever written, but you know, whatever. So if you're triggered by anything like sexual activity or, you know, abuse and all that type of stuff, I would highly recommend that you skip this and go on toward the ending of the video and all that, because we're gonna get into some heavy stuff here. Oh, get ready for this. All those that are sensitive gone? No disrespect? Okay, good. So, you want to know? Oh gosh, you want to know how Scrooge became who he is? So, apparently, he can't have any true emotion, he can't have any emotional interactions with anybody, like emotional relationships with anybody, because his father came home drunk and bankrupt, and because he wanted the bell around his pet rat's neck, he cut the rat's head off to get the bell. That's why you can't have any emotional interactions with anybody. Okay, and after that, immediately, probably right after that, we get this, you know, his school and all that. You know, the famous school scene where he sees all of his friends and all that, you know. But apparently, oh gosh, okay, so apparently, the reason why he had a hard time at school was because in order to get schooling, his father made an arrangement with the schoolmaster so that instead of paying for his school, for his schooling, for his teaching, the schoolmaster, or I guess Scrooge was left behind in Christmas every year, so the schoolmaster can get his can do some really terrible stuff to Scrooge, and I'll leave it like that. And that's completely unneeded. That should never ever be admitted into any Christmas Carol ever. That's just unnecessary and unneeded. What? Why? No, garbage, trash. That's not even told in an interesting way either. It's just there. We don't even, thank God we don't see any of it. It's just implied, but what the hell? No. Oh yeah, also, here we go. Do you remember the whole Mary Cratchit thing, summoning the ghosts? And now I thought that was an interesting idea. I don't think they executed it well. Well, you want to know how they executed it? Here we go. So Tim, not Tiny Tim. He's never called Tiny Tim in this, of course. So Tim is he's sick, right? So what's a mother to do? Well, to go to Scrooge and ask him for like 30 pounds or whatever the hell it is. So in order to get the money, Scrooge decides to do an experiment, a human experiment on how far Mary Cratchit is willing to go. So she gets to the point where she's willing to sacrifice her body. Basically, she's willing to have sex with Scrooge in order to get the money. No. But then Scrooge is like, no, I'm not going to do that. I just want to see how far you're willing to go, and gave him the money and all that stuff. That's unnecessarily cruel, even for Scrooge, which is why there's an interesting idea here. I mean, it could work, not the sexual stuff or whatever, but I mean, her summoning the demons or summoning the spirits or whatever, it could work if she just, went to ask him for money. He said no, because he's a miser and all that. But then she's like, I guess they get into an argument or something, but then she leaves the building and is like, hey, I can summon spirits, and I hope the spirits come upon you or whatever and all that, So that could work. Like I said, it could work. It just doesn't work necessarily with this, because it's garbage. Also, okay, here we go. Another aspect to the quote-unquote realism here. Now, to be fair, before I begin, let me just say this. I don't care that Mary Cratchit is, of African descent, okay? If it was in any other adaptation, I would not care. But it's in here, and they quote it to being realistic. And you know what I really hate? If they, quote unquote, try to be realistic as possible, but they ignore history. Here we go. So from my knowledge and from, all the research I did online, apparently there wasn't, unlike America, there wasn't any laws saying that, interracial marriage could not exist. It was all about class. You couldn't marry, a poor person couldn't marry a rich person and vice versa, that type of thing. So it all depended on the class. But I do know that, racial stuff was incredibly charged up in England as well as America. Probably more in America than it is in England, but still, it's still raging on, And maybe this happened more often than not in England. I have no idea, but as an American, it's very bizarre seeing this in 1840. I mean, if it was in any other time where, I don't care, again, if it was in the 2009 version, 1951 version, I wouldn't care. But it's in here, spouting to be the most realistic one, and that's not quite realistic. Also, on top of everything else, you got the, if I'm going to really nitpick, and if I'm going to be that guy, I don't want to be that guy, but you got all these, you got the children of Mary and Bob and all that, Overall, I thought they were, honestly, I thought for the longest time, Bob and Mary got, together after Bob's other wife died, because Tiny Tim is the purest of whites and without African descent in his blood. So, but come to find out, she actually did give birth to Tiny Tim. So it's kind of weird if I'm going to be that nitpicky guy. I don't want to be, and in fact, I'm going to move on, but, whatever. That's just neither here nor there. But finally, we come to the biggest sin of all for this entire garbage fire that is this miniseries, and that is Scrooge's redemption. Now, I guess there was a huge thing going on about how Scrooge can be redeemed when this book came out, because he's a miser, he's the worst of the worst and all that, but he's redeemed. It gives hope that no matter how terrible you are, you can always change, you can always get back, But in this, apparently, Scrooge has done so much trash and so much garbage throughout his life that he's not willing to get redemption. He's not looking for redemption. He's not looking for any forgiveness because of the amount of terror and horror that he has committed upon the world, which I gotta say, outside of A Christmas Carol, this could work. Really think about it. I mean, he killed a bunch of people in coal mines and just put it under the rug, He gave a lot of homeless people, he gave them, they lost their jobs and all that, He's done cruel and just terribleness upon the world. He treats humans as if they were animals and love animals more than he does, actual humans. So yes, technically, he shouldn't be forgiven. But it gives hope for humanity that he does get forgiven. Because no matter how much garbage you can unleash upon the world, if you try your best to fix it and try your best to forgive, then, you can grow as a person and be better, even if you're, as old as Scrooge. It's such a heartwarming, lesson that everyone's come to know and love, and that's one of the main things that A Christmas Carol kind of entails. That's why it's very enduring upon, countless generations of people who read the book or watch the adaptations. But instead here, apparently, Tiny Tim dies because he tries to ice skate on Boxing Day or whatever, the day after Christmas. So, and apparently it's like, supposed to be the future. He sees the future, which I don't understand why Scrooge is allowed to see this. Whatever. He doesn't die of sickness. He just dies because he's careless or whatever. Okay. And at the end, he tells Tiny Tim to not go skating. Okay, that's kind of anticlimactic. Also, he doesn't beg for forgiveness and all that. He just tries his best to be better and all that. So he allows Cratchit to quit. Yeah, there you go. He allows Cratchit to quit. He keeps the secret of what he did to marry Cratchit and all that, which that's completely unresolved. So there you go there. Great. And the worst thing upon everything else is that he only goes to recompense for the Cratchits. And that's it. We see him walking in the distance, and that is literally it. What? Yeah, you remember Fred, Scrooge's nephew and all that? Yeah, we see him only once. He is downtrodden, and he's just losing hope for Scrooge. We never see him again after that one scene. You remember Scrooge's, love that he loved as a young person? Yeah, we only see her in like a film reel, and the family he was going to have with her, but she's barely mentioned. She's like a footnote in this entire story. What? Huh? No. He doesn't give to the poor. He doesn't give he doesn't do all the stuff that, Scrooge is supposed to do in A Christmas Carol, because this had got nothing to do with Christmas. You see, this whole review goes all the way back to the original thing. It's got nothing to do with Christmas. This entire series is just painful. It was painful to get through. It was painful to watch. I simply do not like it. It's criminally high on Rotten Tomatoes, and I have no idea why it's got 51%. But anyway, that's all I really got to say about this. I was going to include a section about how they, because, Mary Cratchit is, of African descent, there's some things like, I guess they were about to include, like, voodoo stuff or something, because, she's from African descent, so she's apparently got magical powers now. This whole stereotype in Hollywood, which, by the way, they were trying to avoid the stereotypes in Hollywood, but they decided to include this one, which is racist. Whatever. But I think the biggest sin out of everything, and everything that I have said, is simply this. What's the point? What is the point of this entire series? I can't tell you, because, in other Christmas carols, it's about Scrooge getting redeemed and how, everyone can get redeemed no matter how awful they are. But in this, I'm just considering what exactly is the point. It also ends very terribly as well, where, Mary Cratchit's like saying, "Spirits, we got a lot more work to do." And she looks at the camera, and I was like, oh, no. Terrible. What the heck? Are they trying to... At first, I thought they were baiting for, like, a sequel, but I was like, no, there's no way. But instead, it's, like, social commentary again, and they're just like, oh, yeah, we gotta fix the world, we gotta do... There's other people out there that are just like him, just like Scrooge, so we gotta do this. It's very blatant, and I hate it. It's awful. But yeah, this is the worst adaptation of A Christmas Carol I have ever seen. Even though they had more time to do what they were trying to do, they cut out a lot of the story. They cut out a lot of what made Scrooge the way he was. It was supposed to be a deconstruction of Scrooge's character, but the novella originally did it in the best way. So, yeah, I don't know what the hell he was on. Stephen Knight was on. I don't know. But anyway, though, avoid this Christmas Carol at all costs. Watch any other one. Even the Muppets. The Muppets even had a really great Christmas Carol adaptation. So, avoid this one at all costs. It's got nothing. It literally has nothing. Nothing. I wasted a perfectly good 3 hours to watch something good, but instead I watched this piece of crap. Anyway, though, enough of that. We gotta end this on a high note here, so have a happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Watch A Christmas Carol. Keep it close to your heart and all that, because, it could have gotten a lot worse. Let's put it that way. In fact, I want to recommend something that's kind of a pseudo Christmas Carol, but actually is so joyous in nature. I don't know. Maybe because I'm a writer and stuff, I kind of will like to watch this one. It's called The Man Who Invented Christmas, and it's kind of a pseudo biopic, sort of, on how Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol. I don't think it has anything remotely to do with, actual real life, but it's done very well. It's done, like, I can't put my thumb on it, but it's just so much charm in this film. It's got, Christopher Plummer playing Scrooge, like in Charles Dickens's, like, mind and all that. It's very interesting and a very pleasant watch. I didn't hate myself watching it. Sometimes it can act like a little bit like a Hallmark original film, but that just adds to the charm in my opinion. But anyway, what are your guys' thoughts? What's your favorite adaptation of A Christmas Carol? Hopefully it's not this one. Comment, let me know, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids coming your way. And hey, take care, guys.